Chapter 12, The Miltian Conflict. Let's focus on the Federation real quick. Aside from the URTVs in the military they're sending to Miltia, the Federation also sends 2 operatives on a top secret mission. So secret, in fact, that they won't be receiving any transmissions, reinforcements, or backup until they return. Very Metal Gear-esque. The mission is to safely retrieve the URTVs after they accomplish their mission, and if possible, to retrieve Joachim's Y data. The 2 operatives chosen for this mission are 2 characters we haven't seen in quite a while. The first one is a Realian called Kanan. Helmer says that even though the Federation is not trusting any Realians on this mission because of Utik's ability to make them go berserk, Kanan was created by Vector, and the CEO, Wilhelm, assured him that Kanan will not be affected like the rest of the Realians. What? You don't remember Kanan? Oh yeah. Well, that's because he went by a different name. I'm sure you remember another Vector-created Realian, one that had a program installed in him by Wilhelm, a program called Program Kanan. Yes, Lactus, from Pied Piper. After he was returned to Vector after the events of Pied Piper, his looks were changed, but this is still the same Lactus as before, and yes, he still has the Kanan program inside of him, searching for people with shining wills. The second operative is someone who we haven't heard from since the first video.
I don't believe you 2 have been properly introduced yet. This is Chaos. He'll be joining you on board as your navigator.
That's right. It's your boy, the one and only Mr. Anima himself, Yeshua. Or as he goes by now, Chaos. He was selected because no normal person could pilot Kanan's craft.
Right. That's why I'm here.
Why is that? Because it's an ES, and the vessel of Anima in the ES needs to resonate with the pilot. I don't think they know why Chaos resonates with the vessel of Anima, but I guess they just know that he does. I doubt they know that it's because the vessel of Anima is essentially a part of him that was ripped out and split into 12 pieces. The name of this ES is ES Asher. Kanan and Chaos begin their descent into Miltia when they are attacked by some unmanned drones. Chaos uses some power of Anima black magic shit to focus on the drones and fire at them right at the moment they align, so that this shot will pierce all of them in line, which is not important, but I thought it was cool as hell. Then, as the last drone charges at them, they run out of ammo, so Kanan uses the gun on the ES as a spear and stabs the drone. This causes the gun to break off of the ES and plunge to the ground. Remember this moment. I will test you on this when the time comes, but remember this moment of the gun plunging to the ground. Anyways. After this, they land on Dasgupta, the city where Labyrinthos is. While Kanan and Chaos make their way down the street, the Song of Nephilim is activated. They see a pillar of light in the distance, and both of them can hear the music emitted by the song. Suddenly, all hell breaks loose, as Realians begin to go berserk and Federation soldiers begin attacking each other and even Chaos and Kanan, even after sending them a signal notifying them that they're allies. The crazed Federation soldiers attacks cripple ES Asher, turning Kanan and Chaos into sitting ducks. As the soldiers approach them, they're saved by Jin Uzuki driving his own aims. The fighting causes ES Asher and Jin's aims to become virtually useless, so they all get out of their craft and introduce themselves before continuing their mission on foot.
I am Captain Jin Uzuki.
Back in the church, Lewis is now much more comfortable with Fabronia. We see him laying his head on her lap as they talk about their perspectives on Realians and humans. Both of them are unaware that the Song of Nephilim has been activated, as neither of them have the ability to hear the fragmented Lemegeton waves. Suddenly, Xion barges in. As she tries to tell Fabronia what is happening, combat Realians affected by the Song of Nephilim arrive behind Xion in a horde, walking in an almost zombie-like fashion. Lewis tackles a Realian about to attack Xion, and as they begin to surround Xion and Lewis, Fabronia stands in front of them and tells Lewis to run and take Xion to a safe place. However, this is one of those annoying instances of someone sacrifices themselves to save someone while that someone just stands there and makes their sacrifice worthless scenarios. So the Realians beat Fabronia and plunge a sword through her back? Where the hell did he get a sword? Afterwards, they begin eating her. I kid you not, they start eating Fabronia. Lewis attacks and defeats the Realians and carries Fabronia's body in the hopes of being able to save her. He gives Xion a key to Labyrinthos that Fabronia had on her and tells her to use it on a door in the forest that leads to Labyrinthos and to not enter the city. Lewis stays to fight the Realians off, and Xion does exactly what Lewis told her to do. Back in the city, Jin informs Chaos and Kanan that this whole event, all of the actions done by Utic during the Miltian conflict, are all a setup constructed in order to make Utic and all of Miltia into a scapegoat. Jin is sure that there is a power greater than Utic, but hiding behind Utic, that is manipulating the conflict between the Federation and the whole Miltian system. He doesn't know what or who this is, but we do. It's Ormus. Just goes to show how good a job Ormus has done in keeping themselves undercover. The reason they're doing all of this is to get their hands on the Y data. Why? Well, like I said, the Y data contains information about the location of Earth, the location and use of Zarathustra, and information about Merkaba and Proto-Omega. Who does this benefit? Well, everyone on the opposite side of the struggle. Think about it. Patriarch Sergius, the leader of Ormus, wants to use Proto-Omega as the means to dominate the galaxy. Margulis wants to return to the Holy Land, aka Earth, aka Lost Jerusalem, and he believes that Heinlein does too. But like I said, Heinlein, aka Wilhelm, just gave Margulis that goal of returning to Lost Jerusalem in order to motivate him. What Wilhelm wants is, well, other things that won't make sense right now. This is all the information Jin acquired, probably through his father working as a spy. All this information and an incomplete version of the Y data is inside a device Jin is carrying around. Around this point, the URTVs have started to prepare to face off against Udu. Rubido prepares the spiritual link and helps Albedo prepare as well, as he was too scared to even move. In fact, Albedo was so scared that throughout the whole process, he never let go of Rubido's hand.
I'm scared, Rubido! Don't let go of my hand!
As Udu begins to rise from... Honestly, I don't even know what this place is, but Udu begins to rise from some kind of pit on the ground. Or at least his waves do. But anyways, as he begins to rise, Rubido commands the other URTVs to match their waveforms to his in order to perform the spiritual link that will neutralize Udu's waveforms. As the Link Master, it is up to Rubido to perform the link, and the integrity of the link relies entirely on him. Although the link seems to be working, Rubido has a vision? I don't know, but he suddenly has a realization of what will happen if they keep the spiritual link. That the collision of the two opposing forces will result in thermal energy strong enough to blow up the whole planet. In order to prevent the total annihilation of the planet and everyone in it, Rubido does the only thing he can think of doing. He decides to cut the spiritual link. Albedo, who already has a fear of being left alone because of the knowledge that everyone would die while he stayed alive, fearfully begs him not to let go, but Rubido, sure of what he's doing, lets go of Albedo and breaks the link. This leaves all of the URTVs, particularly the standard ones, vulnerable to Udu's waves, and, well, they all become infected. As Rubido sees a tendril-like Udu wave rising from the pit, he backs up, but Albedo is frozen with fear and the wave infects him too. This link with Udu drove an already fragile Albedo to complete madness. He was already coping through 2 layers of loneliness, but now, having contacted Udu directly, he was infected with the same fear as Dimitri and Voyager. The fear of total isolation and loneliness. This proved to be the breaking point, and Albedo descended into complete madness. The contact with Udu, however, made him realize something else. He confused with Udu. He begins laughing hysterically.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, show me, define me. I am the infinite telomerase. I am not an anti-existence. I am the perfect chain.
This could mean that his ability to fuse with Udu could have something to do with his ability to regenerate. Either way, the standard URTVs who are infected, having weaker anti-waveforms and being more of a hive mind, go on a killing spree in the city, and Rubido runs in fear and looks for Negredo. Negredo is in the city, killing the infected URTVs and also searching for Rubido.
Where are you? Rubido!
Back with the other group, Jin leads Chaos and Kanan to the location where they will find the URTVs, and they begin to say their goodbyes as Jin needs to download information from the terminal inside Labyrinthos to know who this hidden power behind everything is, and he needs to retrieve his father, mother, and Xion. But before they can go their separate ways, Margulis shows up. Margulis and Jin both have history as they were both taught the ways of the sword by Jin's grandfather. However, somewhere along the line, their ideologies went in opposite paths and they went their separate ways. They begin fighting and both prove to be highly skilled swordsmen, because no matter how far into the future we go, even 5,000 years into the future, JRPGs will always have sword fighting. During this fight, we see that Margulis' sword seems to possess some kind of fire abilities, while Jin's seem to possess some kind of ice abilities. Actually, the swords don't possess any abilities. The abilities come from the men themselves, so Margulis has fire abilities, while Jin has some kind of ice abilities. Jin injures himself in the fight, but as he says,
"If you'll pardon the cliche, it's just a scratch."
But even in this state, Jin doesn't back down. They both fire at each other using their sword's elemental abilities, and though Margulis is scarred, I don't know how a horizontal bolt of ice causes a vertical slash through his eye. It is Jin who is downed. However, Margulis' arrogance prevents him from noticing that the floor underneath him is crumbling, and he plunges into the building that they're standing on. After this, Jin, knowing that he is out of time, tells Kanan to download the data in his device into himself, and afterwards, he throws away the device containing said data. So if Miltia is destroyed, the Federation will still be able to obtain the data through Kanan. Back to the URTVs, Negredo manages to find his way to where the URTVs faced Udu, seemingly injured. Albedo, now infected with Udu, attacks Negredo. After this attack, it's unsure where he goes, as the scenes of this event are very fragmented and split between two of the games. However, the Xenosaga database implies that Negredo smacked him with a waveform that left Albedo half dead. Since Negredo was designed as the Red Dragon's executioner, he could easily defeat Albedo as well. Rubido then carries a bleeding Negredo and calls out to someone to help them.
It's alright. Rubido, let it go.
Don't say that! You can't give up!
Then, Chaos and Kanan show up back on ES Asher. Recognizing both of them to be the two URTV variants, they rescue them.
May your bodies and souls find peace, even if it is but a short one.
Back at the hospital, Sue runs through all the evacuating people in order to get to his wife's room to try to rescue her. When he gets to the hall leading to his wife's room, he sees Xion banging on the door, and right next to her, outside a window, he sees one of the 27 series Asteroid Combat Realian prototypes. So he hurries towards her and pushes her into the room before closing the door behind her. As he's surrounded by the 27 series Asteroids, he tries to call Jin but leaves a message when he doesn't respond. He tells him to return to the hospital to save Xion. Then he's attacked by the Asteroids.
Hurry, there's not much time. Please, you've got to hurry. Jin! Ah!
Xion is seen cowering behind her mother's bed and begging her dad to help her. Then the doors open and she's shocked to see the Asteroids holding her father's corpse. After they throw Sue's corpse against the wall, she hides under her mother's bed. The Asteroids slowly approach her mother's bed and proceed to stab the ever-living crap out of her. Obviously, her mother did not survive this. Once the Asteroids leave, a now orphaned Xion crawls out from underneath her mother's bed and begins to cry next to her mother's corpse. She holds her mother's blood in her hands, saying that she has to put it back or her mother will go away. But then, reality starts to hit her. This is a dangerous situation, as Xion is not only one of the people with a strong affinity to Udu's waves, but she is also the reincarnation of the Maiden of Mary, making her especially resonant with the vessels of anima. Her weakened mental state caused her mind and all its latent abilities to be unleashed, and as she yells, she subconsciously calls out to the Zohar.
No, this isn't true!
The Zohar activates, and its bright light calls out to the Gnosis. The Gnosis arrive on Miltia in hordes, numbers greater than ever seen before. There was no containing them this time. After this event, Xion is drained, and she enters a trance-like state before Jin arrives and rescues her. Back in Joachim's lab, Joachim does all he can to isolate this incident to Miltia. Sellers tries to stop him, but Joachim shoots him in the knees and walks to an elevator that rises him to the roof of Labyrintho's HQ. There, he has some monologue about sacrificing Miltia and himself to the fires of hell for the sake of Momo. Then, he started loudly preaching some biblical stuff, which doesn't really seem to fit the situation much, but whatever. Suddenly, he notices someone next to him, and an explosion throws him off of the tower, and he plunges to his death. It is never, ever stated who he saw, and if they had something to do with the explosion that made him fall to his death.
Yuli, I'm sorry. Please take care of Momo. Please take care of our child.
Chapter 13, Aftermath. The Miltian conflict had huge effects on the universe of Xenosaga, not only on the characters but on organizations as well. Xion grew up on the planet of Second Miltia, a planet for refugees of the original Miltia, which is now known as Old Miltia. There, Jin would raise her. She would repress the memories of what she witnessed, forgetting Louis, Virgil, Fabronia, Cecily, Kath, and Almadel. She would also forget the fact that she summoned the Gnosis. She always remembered that her parents died and that they died to Realians on a stormy night. This left her an astrophobic, meaning she had an irrational fear of lightning and thunder. Out of all things, that's what her brain would come to fear. Not Realians, but lightning. Over time, she would grow distant to Jin, as she believed him to be responsible for her parents for arriving too late. Despite this, Jin would always take any opportunity to bridge the gap between them, but Xion only pushed him to the side. He also tried to get her to visit her parents' grave, but she always refused, as she knew they were not even buried there. The grave was merely a memorial. Louis Virgil actually survived the incident, although it's not sure how. However, in order to cope with the loss of Fabronia, he became cold and hateful towards Realians, both Federation and Utic alike. Shutting his heart to the love he felt for Fabronia, he convinced himself that he hated all Realians and denied the feelings he once had for her. He also started showing symptoms of a DME addict. DME addiction is an addiction for Realian tissue, especially skin and brain tissue. The tissue that Realians were made of were for some reason addictive if someone consumed them. However, side effects from this consumption was the hardening of skin and veins and also mental instability. This means one of two things. One, Virgil was so scarred and traumatized by seeing the Berserk Realians eat Fabronia that he himself started doing it. Maybe as some sort of subconscious revenge or self-punishment, I don't know. Or two, it could just be a side effect from having the organ transplant from Fabronia, who was half Realian. But at some point in TC 4753, Negredo visits Dmitry Yuriev, his father, and tells him that he refuses to carry his role as executioner as he does not want to kill Rubido. Claiming that he will not follow his orders anymore, Negredo takes a pistol and shoots Dmitry, killing him. However, as we know, Dmitry has the ability to transfer his consciousness to different bodies, and part of Negredo's purpose of existing was to serve as Dmitry's next vessel. So Dmitry's consciousness lies in rest inside of Negredo until he has time to recover. Helmer does everything he can to help Negredo and Rubido live the rest of their lives as normal humans. They even adopt new names, Negredo being Gainam Kukai, and Rubido being Gainam Kukai Jr. Rubido got lazy. Even though Rubido is technically the older of the two, Rubido chose to halt his cell growth, perhaps as a form of trauma or punishing himself for cutting the spiritual link. However, in doing so, he would always appear to look like a 12-year-old boy. This is why he decided to be the junior of the two Gainams. Rejecting their past as URTVs, Negredo and Rubido, especially Rubido, almost never used their old names or powers again. Albedo was rescued by Kirswassers, who for some reason began becoming obsessed with him, sticking with him even through his abuse of them, and they took Albedo to the Song of Nephilim. Albedo's obsession with Rubido would not cease here, however. He would continue to long for the connection they once had, even wishing they were one body again. Because of this, he decided that if the rift between them was too great and they couldn't have a friendly relationship anymore, and that an adversarial relationship was all they could have, then it was better than nothing. At some point, he would meet Wilhelm, who would convince him to work for him by being a freelance UTIC agent. He did this in the hope of one day coming into contact with Udo again, and this time fusing with him. While working for Wilhelm, he was given his own ES, this one being called ES Simeon. Sellers also managed to find a way to the Song of Nephilim along with Margulis, Kevin, and the other UTIC agents. This is why they were saved when the song rose to outer space. UTIC also managed to get away with one of the Zohar emulators. Why they could only take one is unknown. The Song of Nephilim would remain with UTIC as a weapon, but they put it inside a cloaking field so that they can keep it in hiding until needed. UTIC itself would remain dormant for years as it takes the blame for everything that happened, leaving Ormus a secret and the immigrant fleet with a clean record, or at least officially. Citrine, who was present during the Miltian conflict although she was never shown, managed to get out safely as well. Presumably, she spent her time with the Salvatore faction, who ran the Yuriev Institute during Dimitri's absence until his return. The four variants remained the only surviving URTVs, and the Yuriev Institute ceased their URTV project. Before he died, Joachim Mizrahi managed to do something with the Zohar and the Song of Nephilim. Whatever he did caused two massive black holes to appear in the area surrounding the Miltian space. This area would come to be known as the Abyss, and Miltia would be sucked into these black holes. In an attempt to prevent the Gnosis from expanding to the rest of the galaxy, he also cut off access to Miltia from the UMN. And so, Miltia was locked away, and the UMN gate that led to it was also locked away. Even though if it was sucked by a black hole, it would have been disintegrated. But I guess the Xenosaga developers aren't sure how black holes work. Anyways, this meant that the Zohar and Proto-Omega were both locked away along with Miltia, as they could not be retrieved before Miltia was sucked into the Abyss. Proto-Merkaba and the Song of Nephilim, however, managed to survive the catastrophe. Despite his efforts, however, the Gnosis still managed to spread to the rest of the galaxy, and they would become a constant threat to humanity from this moment on. Joachim also entrusted all of his research data, his Y data, to Momo, and locked it behind several layers of security so that UTIC won't be able to get their hands on it. This Y data now included not only all of those things I mentioned before, but also it has the transfer codes for the UMN gate that would lead back to Miltia. It also had information about Abel and Abel's Ark. What and who are Abel and Abel's Ark? Well, oof, that is a story for another day.